Hey, it's Mr. Johns. Here's today's assignment. We're going to be doing a multi-view drawing of a Hot Wheels car. So, what is a multi-view drawing? Well, multi, right? More than one drawing to help show all sides of an object. And you could then, with measurements, dimension lines, you could then give that to someone to make it on a machine or by hand to the correct size. So that's kind of the purpose. It's an engineering kind of drawing. And so you'll be doing both orthographic and isometric, fancy words that just mean orthographic, 2D drawings of a 3D object. So you take a Hot Wheels car and you draw a flat side view. That's orthographic. Okay. Isometric is the 3D sketch or drawing of the object. So it's more realistic. It should look like the Hot Wheels car. So we'll be doing both in what's called a multi-view drawing. All right. So this is a kind of a technical example of a complicated piece of a machine or something, let's say. And so in the upper left corner, we have the top view. In the lower left corner, we have the side view. And these should be labeled, but in this case, they're not. In the lower right corner, this is the front view. And in the upper right, by the way, those are all orthographic, right? So they're 2D drawings of this object. And then in the upper right corner is the isometric or 3D drawing. So keep in mind that all three-dimensional shapes, objects have width, height, and depth. Width is side to side. Height is top to bottom, and depth is front to back. So, depending on what would be considered the front of the object. So, in this case, the front of a car is typically the front bumper, the headlights, the windshield. So, if we were to say that's the front of the object, then the width would be side to side, left side to right side, the width of the car. How it fits in a traffic lane would be the width side to side. Height would be top to bottom, so tires to the roof. And then depth would be front to back. So that's front bumper to back bumper. All right, so these are just some examples of a shape that we have given the front, the right, the top. Now, on a shape that isn't a car, you can choose what the front is. You notice on this block of wood here, you would think that maybe this would be the front. Why? Why would it be? Any of those can be the front. I mean, I would think that the one here on top, facing up, would be the top, right? But you could flop the block over and then call the top the other side. So completely up to you if it's a random shape, if it's not obvious. So in this case, you can see what would be considered the depth, the width, the height. And those have to match with what is considered the front, the side, the top, etc. Okay? All right. So, a question. Each of these blocks seen here have the same dimensions and color. What else do they have in common? They all look different, right? This one looks like stair steps. This one has alternating slopes. This one has two flats and a round. This one has one flat and two slopes. So how can they be the same? Do you see any similarities? The answer is, if you were to look at them from top view, they would all look exactly the same. Interesting, right? They would all be three rectangles connected of the same size and shape, because from the top view, you don't see the slopes. From the top view, you don't see the round arch. It would just look like a flat rectangle. And over here, even this one, the width of these slopes, even though they're different, actually are the same width as this. Really interesting. So they're all the same. So a lot of 3D design and drawing has to do with your ability to view things from different perspectives. So we've already talked about measuring in inches and in millimeters. And for today's assignment, you can use whichever you are most comfortable with. So don't forget to add dimension lines to your drawing. So first thing you're going to do is grab a piece of printer paper. These are paper should be in the blue drawers underneath, at least today, they should be in the blue drawers underneath the 3D printer. So just go grab, once you can, go grab a few pieces of paper, and you'll need a pencil and a ruler. You're going to divide your paper into 4 equal sections like this. So you've got a vertical line and a horizontal line, which results in 4 fairly equal-sized boxes. Please label them exactly as shown. Upper left, top. Lower left, side. Lower right, front. Upper right, 3D. You're then going to take a Hot Wheels car, so there should be some floating around the classroom. There's either some on the whiteboard tray. Please do not take any of the cars that are on the whiteboard tray on the right side that are waiting to race, if there are any. On the left side of the chalkboard tray behind my desk, there should be some, and there might be some. If not, there's a bucket of Hot Wheels cars somewhere in the room. Find them, grab one. If there's not enough for everybody, just share at the table. And the easiest thing to do here is just trace. I'm not even going to require that you draw these by freehand. If you just plop down the Hot Wheels on the paper and carefully trace it with a sharpened pencil, you should get a shape that's pretty close to the real shape. Next, I want you to sketch in some details. Maybe the windshield, maybe where the wheels are, maybe any racing stripes or a number or decals to make it stand out as that car. Okay? Next, you're going to take that same car, and down below, you're going to flip it over on its side, and you're going to trace it again, side view. Now notice I've got these lines. So I do want you to use your ruler and draw a line that goes straight down. This is just a light line. It's called a guide line. So just a light line that goes straight down from the back bumper to this next square, and then a line that goes straight down from the front bumper. Now what this does is it allows you to line up the car so it's lined up exactly with the first drawing. If you were doing this by hand and not tracing it, this would help you know how big your drawing should be so it all matches. All right, so after you trace the side view, add a little detail. This one will have a little more detail like the wheels, any side stripes or numbers, the windows, maybe the headlights and taillights if you can see them. Just, this isn't an art project, but just a little detail would be good. There are some examples in our Google class, just under, if you look under this assignment for today, you'll see some examples of the Multiview Hot Wheels cars if you want to look. I take some of my favorites and I add them to that collection each year. So maybe yours will be one of the ones I add this year. Now over on the right side here, again, I want you to draw these guidelines, bottom of the tires, top of the roof. This one's a little trickier for sure because you can't really lay the car down on its back bumper. Chances are it's not going to stay that way. And this is kind of up to you how you do this. Because really, if you think about it, if you lay it on its back bumper and trace it, you're kind of tracing the back of the car. But in general, it'll help you kind of get the general shape in there. And because you have these guidelines, if you have to draw any of this by hand, you know how tall the car, the height of the car will be. It should be these tires. My picture is not exactly on. The tires should be touching that bottom line, and the roof should be touching that top line. And then up above, this is just a 3D sketch. This is probably the hardest one because you can't trace it. It's 3D. So what 3D means, you can see 3 dimensions. So I can see 3 sides, even though I can't see the back, I can't see the right, and I can't see the bottom. I can see the front of the car because it has the front bumper, headlights, windshield. That's the front of the car. Well, yeah. And the side view over here, these wheels and the side of the car with the doors, and then I can see the top of the car, which is the hood, and again the windshield and a little bit of the roof. So if I can see three sides, that is a 3D view. And so just do your best to sketch it. I sometimes hold it out in front of me, or I put it on the table and kind of squat down a little bit so I can see and just do my best job. Just give it a sketch. You'll get full credit if you try on the 3D. Lastly, and what's not shown here are dimension lines. And so I need dimension lines. I need 2 dimension lines on each drawing, because I couldn't make this on the 3D printer or any machine if I didn't know, is this a real car? Is this really, 8 feet long, 5 feet wide? How big is this thing? Is it a micro machine? Is it millimeters? Or is it a Hot Wheels car? So please add dimension lines. And if you remember how to do that, use your ruler, measure. And the nice thing about these lines being here now, you should be able to just measure between these lines. Now you can't do it up here for the width, but you just lay your ruler between the lines and you measure. And then you can do inches or millimeters. Put the number in the middle. Please remember to put mm for millimeters, or cm for centimeters, or in or quotes for inches, please. And then draw an arrow. And hey, these lines are already here, so you don't have to draw those end lines. Just draw 2 arrows from both sides of the number out to those lines. So do that for the width and the depth, in this case, front to back of the car. Also the height and the depth down here as well. And yes, some of these numbers are going to be the same. That tells me it's the same car. That's not a bad thing. And then over here, the front, it's going to be the height and the width of this. So dimension lines, I'll have 2 per drawing. And guess what? You don't have to do it for the 3D drawing. No dimension lines at all. Put your name on it, and you will hand it to the sub, or you'll turn it into your teacher, me, or a sub, or put it on the table. And that is today's assignment. Have fun with it. I can't wait to see how these things turn out. And I will catch you later. Mr. Johns is out.